Well, welcome again to another episode of Papa's Garage. Just a little update. We've been out of town for about a month, so the progress wasn't as much as I had hoped. But anyway, we'll show you what we've got going and see if it's interesting. Well, first off, we got the front end pretty much together now. I was able to use the outboard tie rod ends from the one-ton Chevy. This is all one-ton Chevy, the upper and lower control arms. I was able to use an early Ford pickup inside tie rod end. It's only 4 inches long, so the only thing here that's custom are these couplers here, and it's pretty a pretty simple setup. They're only it's 11/16 thread. It's left right. These are only like $19 a piece, so they were really reasonable. The sway bar was a little bit challenging. Originally, I tried to use the factory one, but it just wouldn't fit. I tried mounting it in the back. It just wouldn't work. So I ended up taking the original one-ton sway bar, cutting it in the center, and I've put a piece in. This is a hollow shaft here. What I've done is put a piece of DOM tubing inside to take another piece of another sway bar and spliced it in there. So it's mounted in with air mounts and everything else. So that's I think that's going to work just fine. Without the motor in here to worry about, there's no problem. For the clearance, the AC generator is going to be back in here. There'll be a radiator up here for the charge air cooling and oil cooling and stuff like that, but that'll be just fine. We'll have plenty of room. I've got the steering box in here, so we're looking pretty good up here. I've used again the one-ton Chevy torsion bars. Actually, these are 3/4 ton torsion bars here, and I took the original cross member for the torsion bars from the Chevy truck, and I added about I don't know 15-16 inches in the center of it, and mounted it back on rubber and everything. So we're all set here. These are the port chops are in this and everything. I haven't loaded it yet, but that's all set to go. You notice I got these little extensions here on the forward part. I'm going to wait on the back to get to see how all my cross members work out before I work on any of the rear ones. We continue on back here. I've been putting the quad bag stuff together, just trying to get everything tied up. I got the rear brakes and everything. I'm working on I've got a little bit of adjusting to do for the front calipers to make everything fit here. I also added this third link here, or the second link, I should say. And this was a little bit challenging to get it in there because all this stuff will have to move potentially for the alignment. When this is aligned, this can be moved in and out. So this is all built so it'll adjust. I can shim it back here to bring this in and out. It's a pretty minuscule amount of distance it'll move, but you still have to make arrangements for it to adjust. The rear end is I built I machined out the disc brake for it and everything, and the more I looked into this, I realized that the angle was too much for just a single shaft, or a shaft with a slip yoke, I should say. It's going to have to be a double shaft. It's going to be a real expensive proposition. I went and lowered the motor, I lowered mostly the rear of the transmission down. So I got my angle from the original 11.6 degrees down to about 4 degrees, which will be just fine. But that being said, looking at that rear end, and having to build some axles that were serviceable, I couldn't come up to an economical way to do it, to be honest. These would have to be a one-piece shaft from the inboard CV to the outboard CV, and the only way to replace it, if you had to replace a boot or do anything like that, would be to drop the whole suspension assembly, so bogey box and everything down, and that to me just didn't seem practical. So I've decided to go a different direction. I've got a Dana 70 that was originally in the front of a Revcon motorhome. Now this originally was fairly narrow. This was the tube that was in it, and it was like this tube was pushed into the housing like that. That was a challenge to get that rascal out of there. This is it's a casting, which you can't really cut with a torch worth a darn. My plasma cutter wasn't capable of cutting through 7/8 of an inch. I couldn't find anyone in town that could do it. I ended up worrying it out of there. And man, you can see how ugly the cuts are and everything. But of course, this gets thrown away anyway. So what I did then, I chucked this up in the lathe, machined it down to the same diameter as this, and now I've taken about 10.5 inches out of this. I'll have this thing. I'll heat this up. I had this in the freezer. I'm going to push this back into it and have the axle shaft shortened 10.5 inches. Then I'll have a pretty narrow, nice little package. What Revcon did, they used an inboard CV, or excuse me, an inboard U-joint with an outboard CV, or something like this. Well, what I'm going to do is have this shaft rebuilt. I'll have it splined like this on this end, splined like this on this end for the Chevy outboard CV, and then it'll be a very serviceable piece with a single CV and a single U-joint on both sides. And like I say, it's a Dana 70. Some of the other challenges are going to be in the oiling, because this will be flipped upside down. It'll still drive on the correct side, so it'll be very strong. But I've got some plans to rework the oiling, so that should be just fine. One other thing I've been working on is I mounted this water pump. This is a water pump that Ford uses. They cool their charge air cooler, their liquid to liquid charge air cooler. What they do, this is a completely separate system. This water pump will run water up to the front through a radiator, and it'll have it'll cool my transmission, my charge air cooler, possibly the oil. We'll see. It's pretty robust. It'll do a lot of cooling. The radiator is oh my goodness, it's 38 inches wide. That radiator is going to sit up front. I've decided I'm going to put a rear radiator in here as a pusher. I've picked up a fan, a pusher fan for it. I've got a radiator. Let me see here. This bad boy was in a 40-foot pusher coach with a 400 horse Cummins in it. Should have plenty of cooling power for this. I not really wanted to go with a pusher, but the pluses just outweighed the minuses on this. So that's the direction we went. Putting this guy in here was a real challenge for the belt sizes. This thing uses a 136-inch belt, which is a really long belt, and you can see where it's going all over the place. Originally, this motor was set up to run 2 alternators. Second alternator sat over in this general area here. So I was able to find a 142-inch belt. It's a 6-rib belt, which is this belt was the 142-inch belt is fairly common, or it's available. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so I got that and then adjusted my mount to work with that. So I think that's going to work just fine. But anyway, I'm guessing that's about all I got for today. Thanks for watching.